Hi, my name is Annette, and I'm the CEO of Gedea Biotech since 2 years back. 12 years ago, I actually finished my PhD just over the bridge in Lund, Malmö, and was the co-founder of just that company, which Saga mentioned, Wind Research, which is now in phase 2 trials and a listed company. But 2 years ago, I joined Gedea Biotech, and Gedea develops the first treatment on the market targeting both bacterial and fungal vaginal infections, and yet being antibiotic-free. And I will tell you more about this now. So, globally, we have at least 400 million women having at least one vaginal infection a year. Many patients suffer from recurring infections, coming back at least 4 infections a year. So the infections greatly affect the ability to go to work and family lives and activities, and influence the quality of life. Currently, there are different treatments for bacterial vaginosis, BV, and vaginal candidiasis, the fungal infection, VVC. And for BV, if you go to the gynecologist, you are most likely prescribed an antibiotics, local antibiotics. And if you have recurrent infections coming back, you are prescribed antibiotics on a regular basis as a prophylactic. Vaginal candidiasis is mostly treated with vaginal mycotic treatments, and if you have recurrent infections, you're standing on continuous oral antifungal treatments. So there are existing treatments. The main issue is the recurrence of these infections, which is up to 50% of the patients get their infection back within a couple of weeks or a few months. The recurrence has many reasons, but two of the most important reasons is the use of antibiotics, which also kill the normal protective bacteria. And that increases the risk of having a bacterial infection again or a candida infection, so they greatly interfere. Also, the biofilm, which is kind of formed by the bacteria and the fungi and protect the bacteria and the fungi from the treatment, makes the treatment up to 100 times less efficient. So the bacteria and the fungi hide below the biofilm, and that is another reason for the high recurrence of these infections. Globally, we also see the high threat of antibiotic resistance, which we all are aware of, and we need to reduce the unnecessary use of antibiotics. So vaginal infections can be mainly caused by fungi or bacteria, but they are also quite often mixed. Up to 1/3 of the infections are mixed, having a presence of both bacteria and fungi. And for those infections, we don't have any good treatment today. Most women go to the pharmacy and buy an over-the-counter treatment as their first-line treatment. But the symptoms of the bacteria and the fungi infection can be very, very similar and hard to distinguish. And in fact, it's shown that 67% of the women buying an over-the-counter treatment choose the wrong treatment because they misinterpret their symptoms. Gedea developed a solution to this. We call it FIF. And it's one treatment, a local treatment, for the cure of both diseases. It is antibiotic-free, which means that it will not affect the normal flora and protective bacteria. It removes the biofilm and restores the vaginal pH. And these 3 features, that is antibiotic-free, removes the biofilm, and also restores the vaginal flora, makes us estimate that we will have a lower recurrence upon this treatment. It has a documented safety profile. The ingredients have GRAS status by the FDA, and in Europe it's considered a medical device, so we have a short route to market. So the mechanism of action, so bacterial vaginosis occurs upon a pH rises, and you have a bacterial imbalance, which is shaded by the red in the middle. What FIF, our treatment, does is that it breaks down the biofilm and thereby access the bacteria and lowers the pH. And in that way, it stabilizes and restores the normal vaginal flora. So it doesn't affect the normal protective bacteria. It just restores the vaginal pH. On the Candida, upon a fungal infection, the fungi, or Candida, adopt a form called hypha, and that is the infectious form. So these hypha, the long protrusions, are responsible for the infection, and they are also responsible for forming the biofilm. And what FIF does is that it breaks down the biofilm and accesses the bacteria and the fungi, and it reverts the fungi from this hyphal form to the non-infectious yeast form, and thereby restores the normal vaginal flora. It's important to mention that it doesn't kill the Candida, which means it reverts it to a normal form, which is normally present in the microbiome. And this means that in the mechanism, there is no selection pressure and a low risk of inducing treatment resistance. Because treatment resistance occurs when you kill most of the microbes, but not really all, and the remaining get stronger. This doesn't kill it. There's no selection pressure, less risk for resistance. So it has a dual action, and for the consumer, this is an apparent, obvious to get the right treatment immediately. Also, it's important for the consumer to reduce the risk of choosing wrong and thereby having to wait for a good result and symptom relief. And it's important that it's antibiotic-free. You see in publications that especially the patients having the recurrent bacterial vaginosis, having this constant antibiotic use, they are very unhappy with having antibiotics. So antibiotic-free is important for the customer. We have extensive in vitro data showing the effect on bacteria and on Candida and on different Candida species, on biofilm, and also that we save the normal protective bacteria. We also have 3 patent families protecting the invention and 2 clinical trials ongoing currently, 1 in vaginal candidiasis and 1 in bacterial vaginosis. Each of these studies include 24 patients, and they are run in the southern part of Sweden. And we expect data readout in March, so in 2 months' time. Based on these 2 studies, we estimate to have a CE mark of this product, approval for Europe in the end of this year. The market exceeds €1.5 billion annually for vaginal candidiasis and bacterial vaginosis. There is a high unmet medical need, especially with the current infections, and it's an expanding market. Currently, we are a privately held company. We have raised 4.5 million Swedish kronor in grant financing and about 21 million Swedish kronor in investments. So we are well financed at the moment. Our next step is to confirm these initial data, which we are getting from the clinical studies, in a larger control studies. And our primary objective is to do it in a partnership. But we are also open for the possibility to have an investment and performing the clinical trial ourselves. In that case, an investment of between 3 and 5 million euro will be seen during 2019. As I mentioned, our strategy is to find a partner for clinical trials, but also for launch on the European market already next year, and continuously on the global markets. We have confirmed interest from several major players in women's health and over-the-counter treatments, so there is a confirmed need for this treatment. The company was founded by 4 chemists and 1 senior physician in gynecology at Lund University, a spin-out. All of the 4 founders are highly engaged in the company still, and I would like to mention Helena Strevens, senior physician in gynecology, meeting these patients daily at the Lund University Hospital and responsible for the clinical trial strategy. I would also like to mention Olof Sterner, who's here in the audience. He's a serial entrepreneur, and this is his most successful company thus far, I think. About 10 companies he's been founding and exited a few of them, so he's been through the journey before. professor in bioorganic chemistry. In the management team, I'm accompanied by a strong regulatory competence in Manas, to the left. She has been working with medical device directive for a long time and responsible for the CE mark procedure. I'm also accompanied by Eva, who's here in the audience as well, having a background as a key salesperson within vaginal infections in large pharma. So she has a profound knowledge in marketing of these types of products and market insight. Among the board and the owners, we have a very strong life science and pharma competence, and this is exemplified by two of the board members, Mats Persson, previous general manager for Astellas Pharma, and Kerstin, who's responsible BD person at Nycomed for the $13 billion deal with Takeda. So, in summary, we have a strong and very committed team. We have a product ready to enter the market end of next year, and a large unmet medical need. As an external validation of our project, we have received Horizon SME Instrument Phase 1 trial grants. So join us as an investor or partner and make a contribution to global women's health.
Thank you very much.
And I'm happy to take questions.
Yeah, this one we actually have time for a few questions. If we have any questions in the audience, welcome.
My name is Hanson. So do you envision that this will be a standalone treatment or rescue treatment from the other available treatments, or what's your view on this?
I envision it as a first-line treatment, because then you, as an over-the-counter treatment, it's also possible to do it as a prescription medicine. The partners that we have been in discussions with thus far has promoted the over-the-counter treatment, because that's where you have the most benefit for the patient. That's the first-line treatment, reducing the risk of choosing wrong and having a shorter way to alleviation of the symptoms. And in the bit longer term, I envisage also that it will be used as preventive measure for the recurrent infections, but on a lower dose and but on a regular basis, because it doesn't affect the normal flora, so there's no harm. It's just stabilizing.
We have another question in the back, I think. Perhaps you can repeat the question so it can hear you.
Sorry. You said you were looking for medical approval as a medical device in the EU. Has it been approved? And if so, which class device is it?
So the question is whether it has been approved as a medical device and which class. So it's a class 2A medical device in Europe, and it has not been approved yet. We are basing it on clinical data, and the clinical data we will have in March this year, and we estimate to have the approval, the CE mark, in the end of this year. So that in the end of 2019 we estimate to have an approval for Europe, and then we will, based on the clinical data, work also forward towards an approval in the US.
If I can just add, based on the presumption that you do get approval, what time would you say, how long before you're on the market?
Depends much on because our primary focus is to find a partner for marketing and launch. At least half a year will it take before the pharmacists have their time to take in new products, and so during mid-2020, I would say.
Great, we're looking forward to that.
Yes, and the patients as well, they're lining up.
Yeah, a huge need for that. Thank you very much, Jeanette.
Thank you.
Warm hand.